It's the Fan Glove Project podcast. It's your boy Dre in the Carolinas. I just recently sat down with Cyntrenna Palmer, author of Hurts Like Brand New Shoes. Cyntrenna, originally from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, moved to the upstate, attended USC. She's an AKA, and she says she's a lover of a good cup of coffee. This is her first novel. She's a motivator. Her life is one of uplifting and inspiring women who have been victimized of domestic violence. She's about empowering, and if you met her, you'd think you've known her forever.
It wasn't immediate. I started journaling. I've always written. Even as a kid, I wrote poems. That was mainly what I used to write, are poems. And over the years, during this journey, I would just write things down. And it just came to me one day that I'm going to write a book. But when I was in college, when I was in undergrad, I used to hang out at Barnes and Nobles all the time. I mean, what better place? Books and coffee. Like, that's my home. And I would always say that one day I'm going to have a book on that shelf. But I would just say that. And then about 10 years later, I'm journaling. And then I realized, whoa, wait a minute. I can write a book. And so I decided probably several years ago that I was going to actually write a book. But in 1,300 pages, that is not a book. That's several books. Yeah. So I would say about maybe 5 years ago.
5 years. Did it take you about, so it took you the actual 2 years to write the book?
No, when I actually became focused to write it, I would say a year. And that's with just typing it up, getting it edited, getting it formatted, getting the book cover, copywriting everything, getting your legal paperwork in order because that's very important. And I did the title last and making sure that that name hadn't been taken.
Okay. Doing
my research, looking around, making sure that that wasn't associated to any brand or marketing, Mm-hmm. And so I would say like 2017, late 2016, 2017 is when I really became serious and said, okay, I'm going to get published and I'm going to finish this book.
Wow. So on your title, Hurts Like Brand New Shoes. So I did a research, mm-hmm. and I came across Sade.
I love you. Good. High five, baby. That's what I'm talking about. There you go.
And as I started doing more research, I played the song, I think it's called, what is it? Pearls. Were you playing that song when you was writing this book?
I had heard that song before, and what really struck me was the lyrics. There's a woman in Somalia who's just dying to live. It's like, wow, that's pretty deep. And the pain that she's enduring, it hurts like brand new shoes. And Sade, for emphasis, repeats it several times. It's like, wow, that's pretty deep. Mm. But it didn't resonate at that time. It was my cousin, Stacy Addison.
Okay.
Who said, cousin, I got a great title for your book that you're working on. And what do you think of Hurts Like Brand New Shoes? I was like, Sade? The Pearl song? And I knew that was it. The title Pearls, how a pearl comes to be. A pearl is a result of filaments rubbing together, and it formulates this pearl. Kind of no different, like they say, that old adage, pressure does one of two things. It either makes a diamond or it bursts a pipe. So a pearl is made the same way. I'm also an Kappa Alpha woman. We wear 20 pearls. So I just thought that was validation, and that's exactly where the title came from.
I think you just taught a lot of people how pearls are made.
It's true.
Filaments.
Yeah, from the sea, and oysters. And not all oysters produce pearls.
Right.
That's why they're pretty expensive. And so the symbolism of it all truly resonated with me.
I've never heard I love Sade, but I've never heard Pearls
Yes.
until I actually did research on you.
I love that. You're good. Very good.
I played that song over and over again, and I felt like I started hurting.
And it's the song really touches your spirit because it's not, even though she's talking about a woman in Somalia,
Yeah.
but it's not gender specific. We all have gone through things. And at the end of the day, we all are dying to live if you're doing it correctly. Yeah. Not living to die, but dying to live.
I mean, I could apply that song to so many situations today.
Yes.
And I can imagine you knowing the song and writing the book. Did you continuously play that song as you write, or did you just know that was the title, it was in your heart, and I don't know, it fits so well from what I've know of the book?
I did not. I'm a lover of music, and I can't say that it was just that. While writing the book, music was always playing, all genres. And I, too, like you, had listened to that song before because I kind of just download whole albums and just put them on shuffle and whatever comes up plays. Right. And even though the song resonated with me, it was my cousin who kind of brought it to my attention, like, that's the perfect title for your book. And then I went back and I listened to it, and in all honesty, I cried. It was like I had an epiphany, like, oh, God, that is the title for my book. And hence the research started. Okay, Lord, please don't let somebody have taken it. I said, it's such a commonly used phrase. I know somebody has taken this. And they had not. So I went straight. And
it's meant to be.
It was meant to be. And the first thing that I did was copyright the title.
Smart.
Yes.
You went to University of South Carolina and you majored in literature.
English literature.
Now, did that process teach you how to write a book?
Yes. Yes and no.
Because what I want to know, what was your writing process like? I mean, you have pages all of, cards and stuff. Because usually, every time I start a book, I try to do a little more research. How do people actually organize? I'm very unorganized. How do people organize the character, the plot, and then bring it all together and concisely,
Right. Now, that is what my English background did. I completely understand the elements to a novel. There is a blueprint to it. But however, in writing the book, I was prepared. I knew how to develop a story. I knew how important characters are, the development of the characters. I also understand that writing a book, you have to know who your intended audience is. And that you can write 5 million books, but if it does not resonate with the audience, if the audience doesn't connect to the character, it's kind of like in vain. So my writing process is pretty unique. I wrote these books and books, the little notebooks by hand. I typically would try to do like between 8 to 12 pages at a time. I didn't number the chapters. I would just do chapter and a line. Okay. And then I would bend the page at 10 pages. And that was my writing process. I didn't know how many chapters I had, but I just wrote. And then when I wrote about 5 to 7 notebooks, and the notebooks had approximately 200 pages in them, I said, okay, now I'm ready to write my book. Right. And so for me, when I come to the laptop, that is the final step. When I'm typing up the manuscript, I'm old school. I need to feel the pen in my hand. I need to. And what is so unique is the notebooks and writing the book, I can actually see some of the pages where I was crying when I was writing it. And so they're tear stained, Yeah.
Now in writing this book, are you your own publisher?
Yes, I self-published.
Okay.
CCP Publishing, LLC. CCP are the initials, Cyntrenna Corona Palmer. And I self-published. I authored the book. I have 3 children, but however, I feel like this is my 4th baby. And because it was so near and dear to my heart, I wanted to be in complete control of the book, title, creative control. And I did not seek out publishing. I did not want to be published. I wanted my first book to be a result of my time, my grind, my desire.
Wow.
And so, yes, I self-published. And I'm so thankful, and thank you for all of my supporters, including yourself. They say typically a self-published author during the life of their books will only sell approximately 250 books a year. I did that my first week.
Wow. Wow.
And it's still selling. Thank you very much.
So, like, I'm a perfectionist. When I write a line, I go back and edit it maybe multiple times. You have an entire novel. Mm-hmm. How many I can't imagine how often you had to go back and edit. Or did you do that? Was it hard for you at all?
No, not very much. Most of the changes that I had to edit was things like verb tense, making sure that if you're speaking in the present, that the verb tense is in the present. But like I said, I started out journaling, and whatever came from my heart is what hit the paper. And I didn't want to change that. So the edits were simply things like verb tense and changing some of the characters' name. Because some of these things in the book are resultant of real life occurrences. And I took poetic license, and to protect the innocent, there are some changes to the names, but not very many changes. No, I kind of wanted it to free flowly.
And it's curious you say that, because my next question actually was going to be, is this book a reflection of, because I know fiction can be just fiction, but most of the time the best fiction has a lot to do with the person's actual reality.
God, you're good. You are so good. Listen, you are good. And you're so right. Many fictions are a result of real life stories. And my novel, Hurts Like Brand New Shoes, is no different. I indicate that this book is a result of many different shoes. But many of the occurrences in the book did occur. And it's fiction in the sense that it's not 100% true.
True. Rona is the main character in this book. Rona in the book starts, to me, innocent, and it runs into a person of the streets. And then Rona starts experiencing a lot of issues with this guy, things that should have been in plain sight. I think you described Rona as a little naive. Is that your experience? Looking at you being well educated and just awesome person, we should always not expect to be part of the streets. We should always expect to succeed in life.
Exactly.
But then we come across people who are, and I think everything happens for a reason.
True.
We come across things that are just totally opposite of us. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it actually takes from us. I think it adds to us.
Yes.
How did the experience of Rona add to it, Rona? Did she learn from her experience in this book?
Oh, most definitely. As a parent, Justin, congratulations to your daughter and your family again on her graduation.
Thank you.
You prepared her to live this life. You didn't prepare her to be in the street. Did you ever sit down and talk with her about, this is how you navigate in the hood?
No.
This is how you grab a dope dealer. This is how you slang dope. These are generally not conversations that parents have with their children. And my understanding that your daughter is well educated also. She may be very well educated in books, but she's not of the streets. So you can take someone, a straight A student, and place them in the streets, and they may fail because that's not their place. They don't know how to navigate because this is foreign to them. Rona is no different than many of us, including myself. I was raised to go to school, become educated, stay out of trouble, stay out of bad neighborhoods. And my parents did exactly what they were supposed to do, to prepare me to live well, not on that other side of the streets. You know, I was always taught that there's no reason to hang in the hood. People in the projects in the hood don't even want to be there. We fought to get you up out of that situation, so why the hell would you ever return to that? Right. So, yes, Rona was naive, but I think that she learned very quickly that what she needed to exist and survive, she learned quickly. She was a quick learner. Now, it took her a little time sometimes to kind of figure it out, because if you've never encountered, let's say, a wildebeest, how do you know how to identify a wildebeest? If you've never seen a duck, how do you know that a duck with webbed feet and a beak is a duck? So she was in it, but not of it. She didn't know about drugs. She didn't know about, selling dope. What she knew was going to school, making good grades, playing tennis, going to church, being a good girl, going to college. So she was illy prepared to deal in the streets.
I like the perspective, the way you tell the book. And actually, my wife she really likes the book.
Awesome.
And she asked me a question. She asked, it seems like this is her, and it brings me into her from the perspective you're telling the book. It brings the reader into the world as if they're Rona. And like I said before, she was reading the book, and I heard her laugh, and I knew then that she was, because she reads a lot of books, and some books she don't like, she won't read it. She started laughing as we was traveling down the road, and I knew there was something there about that book, and she can't stop talking about it. I talked to a few people who's read the book. I started reading the book myself because I think that's what happens when people hear more and more about something in depth, and they go, let me see for myself.
Yeah. And
everybody generally has the same reaction. They feel like they're a part of the book. It's my life. I can relate to a lot of things. A lot of times people look at it. I don't want anyone to think this is a typical dope wash story. It is not.
Right.
It is definitely a book told from a perspective of the person that really, I know a lot of books out there tell it from that perspective, but the way you talk about Rona, or Rona talks about herself, it's like you're on a journey.
It is.
With Rona.
Right.
And was that your intention, to bring the reader on the journey?
Most definitely. This book, my first book, Hurts Like Brand New Shoes, will be a continuing novel. And hence the reason for the title. We all wear shoes. That's something that we all can relate to. And many of the experiences of women are not simply unique to one person. Growing up, we've all, at some point in time, struggled with identity issues, first loves, family dynamics changing. Growing up in South Florida at the height of cocaine, it was at that time called cocaine capital. The drugs that also caused a lot of division in homes and changed family dynamics. Many of us have the same desires to change our current stations to be better, be it through education or work. And this book, it was my hope and prayers that they would like Rona, because I knew that was everything. I don't have a lot of sauce This is grit and grace. And so that's another reason why I wanted to self-publish the book, because I knew how important the success of the others would be based upon this. And if the readers did not connect with Rona, if they didn't like Rona, this was not going to work. I was overjoyed when I would hear some of the reader responses. I laughed, I cried, I got mad, but in the end, I was so happy, we rejoiced. And I was like, yes, connection, it's resonating. That's what I need. And I've often heard, like your wife, like, there were parts of it, it was funny. I laughed. There was parts of it where I cried. There was parts where I got angry. But the message is, no matter what you're going through, no matter what the course is, even when it hurts like brand new shoes, you have to just keep walking. Because it's really not about perfection. It's just about progress, one step at a time.
In your biography, you have it here, uplifting women who may have been victimized and empower them to survive bodily.
That's true.
And is that a personal experience for you?
Yes, sir. And this is the first time that I have ever openly in a forum said this. But I know Rona very well. I am Rona. There's many other Ronas in this world too. And I was a victim. I don't like to use the word victim, but I was a victim of domestic violence. I refer to myself as a survivor, but I was victimized. And I understand how difficult it is sometimes when you give your heart to someone and you expect them to be a good caretaker, and they try to beat the life out of you. And when you don't have the physical strength to match them, you have to dig deep, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional, or just a deep down desire to survive,
The character Robert Earl sounds bad.
Bingo.
I mean, it's actually, I'm like, Robert Earl. That's somebody that's going to beat you.
Basically.
Yeah, if you run across a Robert Earl,
run.
And I think about, okay, so I tell my daughters to look for crazy. If you're gonna date, I have one of them's married now, but if you're gonna date, look for the crazy in the guy. You got to pick up on certain things, and a lot of times it's not obvious. It's not on the surface. Do you with your experience, do you have any advice on what to spot?
Yes. As a survivor of domestic violence, I have spoken to many women, and it's not easily, identifiable. There's no textbook classic case where if he does this and this and this, this is what it is. No, because it may not. And listen, as in the book with Robert Earl was very good at reading people. So he didn't come in with abuser on his forehead, wearing I beat women. He was able to get your guard down, treat you nice, tell you nice things. I'm going to take care of you, but he's controlling you too. And it's not always easily recognizable, but what I always tell people is, that little voice, when it doesn't feel right, it doesn't sound right, it ain't right. And sometimes we need to shut this heart down, because emotions can place you in a situation like Rona and almost get your life taken. You use your mind, exercise logic, because you don't hurt anything that you love. You just don't damage it. You make it better. You grow that. You nourish it. Love nourishes. Love is a verb which should propel you to action, and hopefully positive action. But if someone says verbally that they love you and then physically they're treating you like they hate you, then that can't be love.
When you think about abuses, there's two types that comes to mind. There's mental and physical. I know physical hurts, but I always thought that mental was the worst of the abuses. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Mental and verbal. All abuse is bad, let me just say that. But I believe that there's different stages of it. In my experiences, it starts physically. That is like the bulk of it. And after the physical, then it's the verbal and the mental. For me, it wasn't so much as the physical, even though the physical was bad. But it was the mental, the verbal, the things that resonate in your head long after you've even removed yourself from the situation and you're trying to not be convinced that you're ugly, that you're not valued, that you're not loved, that you're not worthy. That's the difficult part, is to stop those words from becoming your reality. You heal from the licks. It's those words that you have to, and the mental aspect of it that you have to fight so hard to remove.
How does Rona, and if Rona represents a lot of Ronas, how did Rona take her experience and learn from them to advance and not to experience the same thing again?
I think ultimately, before the children came into play, she didn't come from a home where she saw abuse. So she wanted that love that she saw between her grandparents. And Rona always wanted to be more. She always wanted to make her family proud, especially her grandmother. Very proud. And then when she had children, that was the reason. She knew very quickly that this is not how I want my children raised, especially, her first child was a boy. And she did not want him growing up thinking that it's okay to beat women. So it was wanting betterment, not only for herself, but for the children that she was responsible for too.
That's awesome. And I would think it's a lot of women that are caught in situations like Rona, yes, that can't find their way out. And it's almost like, do you think, I know I hear this sometimes, but some women love to be in bad situations. I don't know if that's true or not. Or is it that you're so safe or you come from a home that may have demonstrated the same thing you're in now, an abusive relationship? Why do you think some women tend not to come out? Or do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, completely. Domestic violence supersedes socioeconomic class, race, even gender. There are men that are abused. I think that, and it's down to the individual. Some people, I've heard some women say that if he doesn't hit me, he doesn't love me. Or they may have come from an abusive home. And so it's very familiar to them. Their silence oftentimes because of embarrassment, shame. I was guilty of that. I did not want my family to know that this is what I was being subjected to and this was my reality. I was silenced by embarrassment and also a deep concern for somebody in my family going to prison for life. Because if they truly knew what I was enduring, they would have brought physical harm to him. So there's many reasons for the silence. Hoping that he will change. Or which I feel like is almost the worst, is some of these women have been abused to the point where they lose their voice. They're silenced. And that was my thing. I won't be silenced. Like, after I went through therapy, I understood exactly like the different stages, that it's very important to speak your truth. And so with Rona in the book, she was trying to navigate, do I speak? Do I remain silent? Or do I sort of kind of drop hints, you know? And that's the difficult part, because up until recently, the laws have changed, you know, and the setting of this book, the late 80s, early 90s, there were not many laws that protected women. Back then, your man could beat you up. You call the police may make him leave or take him down to the police station to let things cool off. And when he comes home, it's really on. We now have laws in place to protect us women, you know, but that wasn't always the case. And then when some women have been subjected to this abuse for so long and the laws change, well, will they really protect me? There are women that die at the hands of their abusers, you know. South Carolina has typically been in the top 5 states with domestic violence that leads to homicide. And they go take all of the legal recourses to protect themselves, even with temporary restraining orders. And at the end of the day, they are killed. And so it is my hope that you will use your voice. That's the reason why I wrote the book. Like, in many instances, Rona wasn't able to physically fight, but she wasn't silenced.
Right.
You know.
I think about the Me Too movement as I delve more into the book. Your book relates to current events right now. Mm-hmm. It's been going on for a while, but really now is the time hurts like brand new shoes. And speaking of the title, that is so awesome. I talk to a lot of people, and if they know nothing about the book, they're interested in reading it because of the title.
Score. That was the game plan.
You have 5 stars on Amazon.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 or 3 reviews. You have multiple reviews. Yeah. You have over 1,000 followers on Instagram. Yeah. And many followers on Facebook. On your Instagram, you share, I've seen the pictures you've taken with a lot of different people. Now, you're a Black woman. Yes. And you had a book, was it a book reading or it was a book club?
Yeah, book club.
And it was all white women.
Yes.
So the book doesn't just...
Thanks, Jen.
doesn't just speak to one race.
That's right.
Of people.
That's right.
And they enjoyed the book, from my understanding.
They did, very much.
I saw the picture. They were smiling at it. Yeah. Everyone you meet seems to really enjoy your company. Do you feel like you're an interesting person? Because I think you are.
Well, I spend a lot of time with myself, and I'm pretty well entertained, you know. But that was one of my struggles when I was writing the book. Our administration was changing. And we came from a time of inclusiveness to divisiveness. And that was something I struggled with. Like, do I want to just be seen as a Black author? Or do I want to be seen as an author? My character, I struggle with the fact that, do I want to reveal her ethnicity? Or will I leave her as far as like physical characteristics? I don't really delve into that much. And I came to the conclusion that I'm going to reveal her as a brown woman. She is a Black woman. But white women, Latinas, Hispanic, Russian, Sudanese, it doesn't matter. Abuse is abuse. And we're in the new millennial, and it is my hope, new millennium, it is my hope that color, we get over that. Because the human experience isn't defined by color. It is not. The human experience is defined by human experiences.
Right.
And so, as a proud Black woman, I decided that she's going to be a Black woman. If it resonates, listen. If it resonates, it resonates. If it does not and they can't get past the color, then this book wasn't intended for them.
Right.
But somebody has to be a voice for my Black women.
Awesome. I wanted to, I took the liberty to look at some of the comments, and I took keywords from comments that people made about the book. And juicy, good read, easy read, pleasant surprise, touched on real life issues I could relate to, relatable characters, and loved it.
I'm always like almost in tears when I get like the positive responses. I also had some people have called me in tears after they've read the book, and it's just like it touched them. I had Dunkin' Donuts. There was a woman that used to work there, and she bought my book. And she was approximately, I'm not so sure, but I would say she's of retirement age. I would say late 60s, early 70s. And she told me, I read your book. I loved it. And I too am Rona. I was in an abusive marriage for 42 years. And I hid it from the world. And now she says, I can move forward now because I'm not alone. She says during her era, it just wasn't talked about. It was common, but it just wasn't talked about. And so in reading the book, she says, I wasn't as strong as Rona. Rona got out quickly. I stayed. But just the mere fact that it was able to transcend color and just really get to the message of the book, it does my heart well.
What's next?
Keep ascending. I have several more books, which I think I'm just going to type them all up and bam, 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 drop them coming soon. So all of your readers that keep telling me, when's the next book coming? I'm going to go ahead and close out the series. And I'm going to keep writing. I'm going to keep experiencing this life so that I can convey messages in books. And be happy.
Yeah.
Continue to be happy.
Because you're getting ready to go to South Korea.
Yes,
You're gonna have
days.
Yeah, you're gonna have a whole new culture around you to feed off of.
Yes, and language barrier.
And language barrier.
Yes, but listen, I'm ready. Yeah. Like trials, they prepare you. You know, like they say, without a test, there's no testimony. And so be it in South Korea, in South Carolina, in South Florida, I'm going to be okay.
Awesome.
You know?
Well, I thank you for coming on the Fan Club Project podcast. And I hope this is not the last time. Maybe when you come back in years, and an even bigger success, you'll look back and say, hey, and I ask, hey, would you come on my little podcast?
Well, listen, and now you have documentation of it.
Yes.
That as I ascend, you will too. And thank you so very much for having me. This has just been a wonderful experience. And listen, you've set the bar for all to come after you. You did your homework and you were good. Listen, so they better not come half-stepping. If they're not coming like the Fan Club Project, then I'm going to need you to go back and do some proper research. This has been so pleasant. Thank you so very much. I truly enjoyed this.
Well, thank you for coming on.
This is Cyntrenna Palmer, author of Hurts Like Brand New Shoes, and you are blessed to be listening and watching to the Fan Club Project podcast.